Welcome back to the Mobalytics 9.17 update and Q&A video. I'm your challenger coach, Adam Moriarty-Owls, here to take you through all the changes and questions you had. As a disclaimer, I'd like to mention that we only update the normal list as of right now, as the high-elo one wouldn't really have a big enough dataset to make an update worthwhile at this point in time. Now with that out of the way, let's jump right into the update. Starting off the top lane normal list, our S-tier roster will be Garen, Malphite, Nasus, Urgot, Yorick Mori, Alawi, Admiral Kled, and the wackiest champion in the game, Singed. Our only changes to the list this time around is Sion going to B tier as a replacement for Rengar being sent to the Shadow Realm. Rengar top does okay with a 50.19% win rate and a 1.1% play rate, but is really only being played by dedicated mains and so becomes a poor recommendation to make because they already probably main him in the jungle anyways. Sion on the other hand though is doing decently better with a 51.78% win rate and a slightly better play rate. Not to mention, compared to Rengar, he's so much easier to play, like he is a tank who is rewarded for dying. It's actually perfect for people who don't feel like thinking too much. That's because he can just charge in, use all of his abilities, die, kill someone with his passive, then rinse repeat until either Nexus is dead. Though it's a skirmish meta right now and tanks normally don't do so well, Sion drops down that CC tankiness and he's got damage from his passive, or he could go full lethality if that's your kind of thing. Now, some of you might be interested in how the updated version of Kayle is doing. I'm not one of those people, but I'll talk about her anyways. She had a very long list of changes in the last patch, and at the end of the day, the results are... she stayed the same. Yep, her win rate went down by around 0.6%, which is pretty much nothing, it's just regular variance. How about my former pick of the week, Mantheon? How's he doing? I say former pick of the week because I actually got 2-0 by flares in our 1v1, which I am going to unironically blame lag. Feel free to check the VODs, I swear I'm not lying. I did actually lag, and that's the only reason I lost. As for his stats, Panth went up a lot compared to last patch where he had a 45.84% win rate and now has a 48.3% win rate in the top lane. Surprisingly though, he is performing way better the higher up you go on the ladder. This could be due to how bad his scaling still is, so higher level players are able to use his amazing early mid game to close out games faster, plus his kit is a little bit more complicated than before. I even had the pleasure of supporting Sneaky, C9's AD carry when he picked Pantheon bot lane. Now I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was trolling at first, but I rolled with it anyways, picked my best champion which was Morgana, and of course, with such a good looking duo in the bot lane, we smashed that game easily, showcasing Pantheon's strengths and abilities to close out the game quickly and efficiently regardless of what role he really is in. Moving down to the mighty normal jungle list, our S tier roster will be Vi, Amumu, Volibear, Nocturne, Master Yi, Jax, and Nunu. Man, he's been there for a while, hasn't he? One thing I would like to mention quickly though is Master Yi has a bug with Rageblade impacting his win rate at the moment. We are keeping him in S tier anyways, as you can just swap to a more crit focused build and be fine. For our changes, we got Pantheon moving down from A tier to B tier because he really sucks in the jungle right now with an extremely low win rate of 46.21%. Now it does get a lot higher if you use Press the Attack instead of Conqueror, but it's still pretty low and he might actually fall off the list. The real important change to the list though is DR Mundo coming in as an A tier jungler. His current stats are crazy strong, and it makes sense as his clear speed is one of the best, his dueling is strong, his tower diving is strong, and he's got a 53.98% win rate to back it up and a decent pick rate of 2.7%. Dr. Mundo much prefers using Cinderhulk over Sunfire, and most importantly, he doesn't have to struggle in lane versus Conqueror chance building Executioner versus him and just killing him over and over and over and over and over again. Instead, he's allowed to roam wherever he pleases from the jungle, he can scale, he can take neutrals easily, and he can join in on skirmishes as he's pretty much unkillable early on with just Cinderhulk and his ultimate. This is because no one builds healing reduction to deal with Mundo jungle early game, and if someone does, well, I don't know, hopefully they lost lane for it. It's a lot of extra money just to deal with the jungler. And if they didn't lose lane for it, you can just say better jungler wins and move on. Well, that's what I would say if I would main jungle, but I don't. So instead, if you actually see someone with healing reduction, just avoid fighting them in the early game and look to scale because you're still a monster in team fights. Now for the mid lane normal S tier roster, we have Malzahar, Vel'Koz, Ahri, Swain, Diana, Fizz, and Lux. Lux will be our only change to the mid lane list, going from A to S tier. Some of you might be thinking, but doesn't she struggle versus assassin picks like Fizz? Yes, but let's be real, most champions struggle versus Fizz, and her only real bad matchup in this bracket, actually outside of that, is Rock Wizard AP Malphite. Most of her matchups she can farm safely versus and scale well into the teamfight phase. Having a safe option that can secure picks is currently one of the stronger strats in mid lane in terms of consistency, kind of like Ahri and Malzahar for other S tier examples. Lux is also able to stall out games versus the heavy assassin skirmish meta, forcing those champions to end up in late game teamfight situations on champions who just aren't really good at doing that compared to her at least. She is also a good pickup because she can be flexed to support if you get all filled, which is likely if you main mid lane, and you got a bunch of skin options. She's even got a skin that lets you change your skin in game. It's like Skinception, you just keep going deeper and deeper and you just keep getting Lux skins more and more, it never stops, it's just more and more Lux skins everywhere. Okay, back to the list itself. Some of you, just like with Kayle, might be wondering how our Space Dragon Aurelion Sol is doing. To the surprise of no one, he's doing worse while people adjust to his new kit, as it's even weirder than before. He currently has a 48.74% win rate, but on 9.16 he had a 50.91% win rate. You guys know me though, I always got my ears to the streets, and after grabbing some intel from Sol mains, it seems like most of them hate the update so far. But that could just be because they actually have to play League of Legends now, specifically mid lane, instead of just being a second jungler, since they never learned to lane or needed to use wave control before, just like jungle mains. I'll probably get some decent flack for that in the comment section, but it's mostly a joke. Either way, I still stand by it, and it's a good way to end the mid lane section. Next up, we got the normal bot lane tier list with our starting S tier roster being Jinx, Draven, Xayah, Jhin, and you hate to see it, but Yasuo. I'll start off with why Yasuo is moving from A to S tier on the normal bot lane list. He has great synergy with many popular A and S tier supports. Janna, Pyke, Rakan, Nautilus, Taric, Nami, just to name a few. In fact, as long as you avoid the O10 ball lane combo, which is, by the way, brand Yasuo since they both have the highest deaths on average in the game, then he'll be fine with almost any of the A and S tier support roster. Since this is an early skirmish meta with lots of dive champions, being a marksman can sometimes be a liability, since if your team doesn't protect you, then you'll just die, which is pretty common since frontlines love to chase down the 06 Ezreal with Iceborne. Like, is it because Iceborne is shiny? Is that why frontliners always have to chase down Ezreal? I don't get it. Anyway, Yasuo doesn't actually have this kind of issue since he just dives in with the rest of the team and can also chase down the Ezreal for shiny stuff. And on top of that, he can snowball easily during the laning phase or outduel any marksman in the early game while still having great scaling, allowing his team comp not to fall off too hard in the late game. It's weird, I know, but he is a legitimate bot lane pick right now. Some of you might blame me for having inting Yasuo bot laners in your games right now, but to be fair, he's banned all the time, and that person likely would have locked in Vayne or Ezreal and fed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Xayah, on the other hand, is a traditional marksman who moved up from A to S tier as well. She does have amazing synergy with the top tier support Rakan, who I've personally been playing a lot for some freelo, but her real strength is that she can peel for herself, survive assassins, and kite back well versus heavy dive comps, which is all anyone plays at the moment. She is also only one of 2 marksmen that is S tier on the high elo list and the low elo list, the other being Draven. If I were to recommend a marksman champion to pick up so you can climb as high as possible by the end of the season, it's 100% Xayah for sure, as she's much easier than Draven, and she's looking like a fan favorite for new skins too. As always, we got the normal support list with our starting S tier roster being Zyra, Brand, Soraka, Janna, Nami, and Pyke. Leona received a buff to her QCD last patch, increasing her win rate by 1% and moving her from B to A tier. She's also been seeing a lot more play in competitive, which has led people to rank her as S tier champion, but realistically, she's only being used as a Rakan counter at the highest level, so her play rate is basically inflated. In solo queue though, she still does have some good meta matchups into popular champions like Zyra, Brand, oh god is it easy to make a Brand feed, and Rakan, but she's still got some real bad ones into Morgana or Thresh for example. If you intend to pick up Leona, I highly suggest you ban Morgana. Even though you can outplay her with some fancy moves like Eing in onto someone and then ultimating the other one, it isn't worth losing so much agency on the game and in the laning phase. Don't try so hard, make it easy on yourself. The other tip I'll give you for playing Leona is trying out Hex Flash. It really does give you a lot more engage, flank, and roaming options, plus it procs unflinching, which some people might not know. When playing a one-dimensional champion, it's always nice to give yourself some extra options if possible. Before I move on to the QA portion, let's play another guessing game in the comments, because I love these. Pyke is still the god of support, so let's guess how many patches it will take for him to be nerfed. Mine is going to be 1 patch after Worlds. This is going to give G2 the best chance to actually win Worlds, so Riot can make 5 different Pyke skins or different chromas to maximize that cash out. You know there's something wrong with the champion when he is the highest win rate mid laner, but can't even farm. Moving over to the Q&A portion, our first person is Stefan on YouTube who says, I still don't get why Nautilus support is only A tier in your opinion since he only needs to land hook to perma CC someone and oh boy do his ultimate carry team fights. He's a durable kill lane tank with a strong all-in who works well with every ADC. He should be S IMO. Well, to me, Nautilus is an A+ champion, and as you mentioned, he has a lot going for him though, and is easy to execute. Up until recently, he had been hovering around 50% win rate, which is why we barely had him in A tier. Interestingly enough though, his win rate suddenly jumped by 1.5% on the most recent patch without any direct buffs to the champion. This could be due to matchup reasons where Zyra, Thresh, Pyke, and Lux are all increasing in popularity and he is winning matchups into all of them, but it's still pretty puzzling. If he is able to sustain this win rate though, and it's not just some variance of some kind, we'll strongly consider putting him in S tier. Though I should mention, judging a champion solely on their kit and not the numbers behind their kit can be really dangerous in deciding if the champion is good or not. For example, support Twisted Fate's broken. He's got target CC on a low CD, he's got poke, he's got great roaming potential with his ultimate, and he can easily peel for his ADC. Then you remember that none of that matters because his target CC is short range, and then he just gets all-in and dies instantly during the laning phase. His poke is also pretty bad too because the base damage is actually lower than what you would think. So when judging a champion like Nautilus, remember to incorporate not just his kit, but also the numbers and win rates behind his kit. Our next YouTube question is from Hatake Kakashi, who says, how is Veigar great when every mid laner is a Fizz, Katarina, Yasuo, or Zed? So right off the bat, I'm gonna nitpick this one a little bit and mention that he's actually considered a counterpick to Yasuo by Abdo, and also I share that opinion as well. That aside, the main idea here is how can he do so well in a meta with a lot of assassins when he isn't strong versus them during the laning phase? It's mostly due to how he can stall out games and outscale them. It's true that he loses to them in terms of pressure in the laning phase and can get solo killed pretty easily by Fizz or Zed, but he hard outscales them during the teamfight phase. At higher levels, he isn't given that time to scale, hence why he doesn't show up on that list. But at lower levels of play where assassin players struggle to close out games and play for objectives, he tends to be able to stall out the game and then cage those animals who bullied him in the early game and outplay them with his R. I swear, the person who designed him knew exactly what they were doing when they made it so that Veigar laughs every time he uses his ultimate. If you've never played him, try it out just once. I personally laugh along with the little guy every single time I kill someone. It's just so satisfying. Froggen does the same thing. Our first and only Discord question comes from Thomas, who asked, why isn't Aatrox in the low elo top lane list? I basically one-trick him top lane right now in gold 3, and I've been having a great time climbing. The reason Aatrox isn't on the list is actually kind of like why GP isn't. It's not that people in lower levels of play can't climb with him if they put in the time and one-trick him, but that the time investment to LP ratio is pretty bad. You could spend a lot of time to learn the micro behind Aatrox, then learn proper macro on him, then climb up slowly, or you could just pick Malphite, hit R, climb faster, play versus better players, even play versus better Aatrox players, then learn from what they do and try it out yourself. Surprisingly, option 2 will actually let you learn Aatrox faster and climb faster than if you mained him the whole time like in option 1. For example, I learned how to play Orianna after losing a bunch to Burix and Jensen and even Faker's Orianna. It meant that when I tried to pick her up myself, I knew exactly what she should be doing and what I could do in terms of limit testing, so all I needed to do was actually practice the execution rather than having to learn her from scratch and go through a repetitive grind of me playing a bunch of Orianna games and losing. This is the main premise behind not including him on the list, along with his poor win rate of 48% across most brackets including Masters Plus and even Diamond. Don't get me wrong though, he's still super strong and deserves whatever nerf Riot gives him, but that doesn't mean he's still really good at climbing on the normal list. Our next question comes from Tyler Untitled on Instagram, who asked, how does Shen get considered A tier when most of the S and A tier champions abuse him in lane? I mean, you're right, it's a lane dominant meta and he sucks in lane versus a lot of the S tier champions and A tier ones as well. This of course would matter more if he was a lane dominant champion to begin with, which he isn't, he is Shen. The reason he is winning despite poor matchups is his unique strength as a tank. He is the only tank top laner whose primary goal and specialty is to peel. This is particularly valuable in this meta as everyone is playing dive heavy comps, so if Shen can actually peel properly for things like Xayah or Jinx, keep them alive in a teamfight with a nice taunt, a little W here, an ultimate there, he'll be able to actually still win the game despite losing the laning phase. This is the real reason why he's doing so well right now. Shower thought though, since I play a lot of Shen, I've always been curious how he actually taunts someone, cause all I see is like he shoulder checks someone. Is that really enough? Cause like he's going up against like demons and stuff like that and gods and space dragons. So like a part of me feels like he must kind of whisper some sort of insult at them during the process. I've actually always wondered what he says during those moments, so put in the comment section what you think Shen says to a specific champion to talk them to make them so angry that they just have to fight him for like a good 2 seconds. Our next and final question comes from Baker4851, who says, does Ryze really not fit anywhere on this tier list? I would have figured he's at least B tier in high elo. Ryze is actually in a pretty bad state at the moment, at least for solo queue. Ever since he lost his shield, people have struggled to position with him properly or even forget what he should build. Should he go full AP? Should he get some mana or tank items? Should he go old school 3 Roas? None of it really matters at the moment because he's going to lose regardless of what build he chooses. Jokes aside, he is seeing some more promise for high-low and top lane at the moment, and has been seeing some more competitive play as both a top laner and a mid laner. Is it enough for us to recommend him yet for solo queue? Not at all. Will I keep making fun of this oversized blue smurf? Yes, bet on it. And will I continue to look into him as a viable solo laner over the next couple of patches? Yes, for sure, as he's been trending up at higher levels of play, but not by that much. We just don't want to put him on the list yet till more people in high elo start to play him. He is kind of like LeBlanc, Lee Sin, or Thresh. They're so popular in high elo that if they are at all playable, everyone spams them all the time. We are just waiting and scouting for that moment to happen before adding him to the tier list, as that is the true test of his current power level. Hopefully that day isn't soon though, as it's kinda nice not having off-role Ryze players in my games lately. Well, less of them anyways. Don't forget to try out Mobalytics today at mobalytics.gg, and I'll see you summoners out on the Rift.